Georgia at Kentucky. We alluded to this with Kentucky. I am concerned. Like Georgia, there's not a lot to say about them. Maybe the best quarterback, maybe the best offense, the best roster, best defense, best fill in the blank going against a Kentucky team. Certainly they're on the road. But ultimately, this Kentucky-Georgia game has never really been close, even when Kentucky was very good. I'm concerned about the health of the quarterback for Kentucky, not because he's hurt right now, because I think he'll be hurt by the end of the game, and I'm worried about that. But ultimately, I think there's a bigger question here with Kentucky, Stephen. Tell me what you think. I am curious to know where Mark Stoops' head is at right now at this moment. I am curious.
Same here. I think it's a fair question. So I think the hard part about that South Carolina game was for Kentucky, a lot of things that you could rely on or say sort of like the backbone of the team, the big blue wall, the veteran offensive line. It was supposed to be good this year. I mean, South Carolina picked it apart. And if South Carolina can do that, I know Georgia's front doesn't have, there's some maybe not as dominant as the one we saw win the national championship in 2022, but still, this is one of the best defensive fronts in the country. So what do you do if you're Kentucky? You get an offensive line that's struggling. Brock Vandagriff, where's his confidence going against his old team? Defensively, for Kentucky, this group is pretty solid, but I mean, Georgia's picked apart Clemson's defense in the second half. So if Kentucky could not score offensively against South Carolina, I have major doubts about their ability to put enough drives consistently together. To go back to the preseason too, and I will say this too. I need to see something from Bush Hamden in this offense because I thought he was a pretty uninspiring hire to begin with. They looked okay against Southern Miss. That's Southern Miss. They got dominated last week. I think you want to see some signs of progress, even though it's hard. You want to see some development from week 2 to 3, even if it's Georgia.
How is that going to happen? That's not going to happen.
No, it's not.
They're a 24-point underdog at home.
I tried to be positive and tried to give things for Kentucky to watch.
This has a warning sign flashing in neon lights over Mark Stoops' head. Not because he's a bad coach, not because he's not been the best coach in modern Kentucky football history. He is. I love Mark Stoops. I think he's done a great job. This season could unravel quickly for Kentucky. And if it does, you have to wonder about a guy whose family retired early and who tried to take a job in the offseason. I have said it all summer. I think he's retiring at the end of the year. If they go through this stretch and lose a bunch of games in ugly fashion, you have to wonder how much more Stoops wants of this. And I think that's a fair question.
I think John Summerall is John Summerall already scouting some homes in Lexington? Is that what you're saying?
Dude, they almost beat Kansas State. Future Kentucky head football coach John Summerall ready to go. He's ready.
Also,
Georgia minus 24.
Yeah, after the Georgia game, Kentucky gets Ohio, then they go to Ole Miss. So it's not getting any easier in the SEC.
Look at their schedule, man. It's brutal. It is brutal. We knew that in the preseason. We thought maybe they could pull some upsets. If the coach is not fully invested, and again, that's not me saying anything negative about like his commitment level. That's not what I mean. I just mean that if your head's not fully there and you're thinking about other things, or like your team's not as good as you expect it to be, it's easy for things to unravel quickly because it only takes 5% less effort to lose close games. It's certainly you can't do that against teams like Georgia and Ole Miss and Texas. They got to play Texas too.
Yeah.
So
have to go, at Florida, and also a much improved Vanderbilt team too.